Kristie Phillips, who in 1986 became the youngest American gymnast to win the American Cup. Phoebe Mills has not been taking her silver medals lightly. Hard work and determination resulted in an all-around upset in this meet against China as Phoebe Mills took the gold from her heavily favored teammate, Kristie Phillips. On the men's side, Olympic gold medalist Scott Johnson and veteran competitor Brian Babcock are the backbone of the USA squad. Scott Johnson suffered a lapse in concentration this year and barely made the national team. A 15th finish at the USA Championships in June of 1986 woke him up. Scott Johnson has been training with intensity. He is back. Inspired by Johnson's rededication, his teammate Brian Babcock. At 26 years of age, Babcock won a scholarship for enduring excellence in the sport. Babcock would like to endure through 1988. Today, the USA is looking to the Far East as China has sent its best in the form of 17-year-old Li Ge. And on the women's side, it is 15-year-old Chen Cuiting. Today, she will try for 4 gold medals. These two teams have converged upon the sunny shores of Honolulu, where it is so difficult to not be distracted by such breathtaking beauty. Welcome to beautiful Waikiki, where ESPN, the Total Sports Network, presents International Gymnastics. From the Neil Blaisdell Arena in Honolulu, Hawaii, it's the McDonald's USA versus China Gymnastics Challenge. This telecast is brought to you by McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. You may think that breathtaking beauty of Honolulu exists only in its palm trees, its sandy beaches, and its rolling surf. But I promise you, as we move inside the Blaisdell Arena, that you will see some breathtaking performances in men's and women's gymnastics. Hello, everyone. I'm Leandra Riley, and what we have in store for you are the individual event finals. The team competition has already transpired, and on the men's side, China defeated the United States by a little better than 4 points. On the women's side, the reverse was true. The USA prevailed, but in the history of the 6-year event between the USA and China, the United States won by the smallest of margins, just 0.15 of a point. Right now, though, let me introduce to you the gold medal broadcast team that ESPN has assembled for you. I'm surrounded by a pair of 1984 Olympians who both won gold medals. On my right, Peter Vidmar, and on my left is Mary Lou Retton, the all-around champion. And Mary Lou, I'm going to talk to you first. We saw in the beginning of our telecast a bright star for China in the form of Chen Cuiting.
China did bring one of their best. Chen is a phenomenal gymnast, very powerful, very strong. She just got back from the Asian Games and came back the all-around win, and she's something that the American gymnasts are going to have to look out for.
And if she had not fallen on the uneven parallel bars, there was a very good chance that she might have won the all-around title yesterday. But that did not happen. It went to a very close battle between Phoebe Mills and Kristie Phillips.
These two, I tell you, it's like a competition within a competition between Phoebe and Kristie. Kristie was favored to win this competition, but Phoebe did pull out and defeat her. Phoebe has been taking training very seriously, and she came out on top this time.
When Phoebe's competing against her own teammate, is that tougher for her?
Actually, it helps because they're in the gym competing against one another every day, so it becomes natural for them.
So it sounds like we have a battle between Phoebe and Kristie brewing again today. But now let's talk about the men. And on this side, we have to really address Scott Johnson because he's the only 1984 Olympian that's competing in this gymnastics meet.
That's right, but Scott really had some problems early on in the year. He placed 15th at the USA Championships, and he just barely made the national team. So I think that was a good kick in the pants for Scott because he really started training hard. He looks better than I've seen him since the 1984 Olympics. And Scott could have won the all-around competition, but he fell off the horizontal bar on the last event. And that made room for some real top Chinese talent to sweep the all-around.
Speaking of top Chinese talent, there's also a youth movement. They have a 17-year-old, Li Ge. We saw him briefly in our opening, and he looks like he's going to be quite a superstar.
I think Li Ge will be one of their top gymnasts in just a few years. He's only 17. He could be one of their best gymnasts by the 1988 Olympics.
Not only their top gymnast, but possibly he could be the top gymnast in the world if he keeps progressing at this rate.
Absolutely.
All right, you may be wondering what is at stake here in this gymnastics competition. The individual event finals mean there are 10 medals at stake. 6 for the men, 4 for the women. When we come back...
Listening to actual...
Welcome back to the Neil Blaisdell Arena. I'm Leandra Riley along with Peter Vidmar and Mary Lou Retton. We are beginning our coverage of this competition with the men's floor exercise event. And the first gymnast that we are about to see is from the Chinese team. This is Zhang Yong.
Mike Rice scores 9.5 on floor exercise.
Zhang's a very powerful gymnast, and he does a great mount. He's way up in the air, and that's one of the real fortes for the Chinese team. They're very, very powerful.
Zhang Yong is 20 years of age. There are no carryover scores into this competition. Whoever gets the best score that you are watching will win the meet.
There's his full in back out, very, very high, a perfect landing. Now he sets up for his next tumbling pass. It's a front flip walkout, a round off back handspring double back flip. He's really, really got his landings down right now. Now he does a neat little trick here. It's first done on the pommel horse, but now it's a flare on the floor. Now Zhang is going to fulfill his balance requirement as he presses up to a handstand. Here's a round off, pike straddle side flip. Now we heard the little gong of the bell, which means that he has about 3 seconds to finish his routine.
A men's floor exercise routine must be from 50 to 70 seconds in length.
So far he's had perfect landings, and here's a double back flip and just a minor pike. Very, very good routine.
Zhang Yong, 18 years of age. He's happy. And while the judges calculate his score, we are going to move over to the women's vaulting competition. From Hunan, this is Zhang Yong.
She is a very powerful gymnast, one of the most of the Chinese. You can watch, she's got a fast run. Nice layout, full with Sukahara. She took a little hop on the ending, but straight body all the way around.
How crucial is that little hop on the ending?
It's a 10th. Every set, you take a step, you take a hop, it's a 10.
Right, Zhang Yong is going to execute 2 vaults. She does not get to choose the higher the 2 vaults for score. What she must do is average the 2 together. And they must be from different families of vaults. How do you feel about that, Mary Lou Retton? Is that the preferred way to vault?
It's easier to take the higher score of the better vault, but I think that you get out your best vaulters from the averaging. That's my opinion on it.
Zhang Yong.
Just waiting for her score, and then she'll get the go-ahead to take her second vault.
She began gymnastics in 1979 and has been a member of the national team for 2 years.
There she addresses
Now for the
the
second
judge.
vault for Zhang Yong.
9.65, her score for the first vault.
It's a decent score for her. She does. She does a tough score this time. She took a big step in the ending, and that's going to cost her. But between the 2, she's going to average a good score.
Our next competitor on floor exercise now represents the
Watch,
United States
the knees are bent
Gymnastics
this time, and she took the
major
big
from the
step back.
University of Minnesota, Rob Brown.
So that'll be a big 10th deduction.
Yes.
We're moving back over to men's floor exercise competition. We'll bring you the vaulting scores in a moment. Zhang Yong from China, the competitor before on floor X, received a 9.75. As you look at the United States, is Rob Brown.
Rob also mounts with a full in back out. It was a little bit lower than Zhang Yong's, but he had a fairly decent landing. Was a newcomer to the national team during the past couple of years. It's a back full punch front.
Rob's 21 years of age, 5 feet 8 inches tall, 149 pounds.
And that's a new way to do a handstand. It's a wide arm handstand with his legs split. It's very difficult to do original skills when it comes to a basic element like a handstand, and that was a nice little addition.
It's funny how the crowd loves the splits.
They do, and I think that we appreciate when they yell when we do the splits, because it is difficult to learn those. It takes a while to establish that flexibility. Rob's very flexible. Here's his dismount, double back flip, and I'll put his hands down. That's the deduction.
Rob Brown.
Unfortunate mishap for Rob Brown. An otherwise flawless routine, except for the landing.
And now to the vault, signaling a round off on vault, Miss Kristie Phillips.
The United States has Kristie Phillips standing by on the vault. Zhang Yong received a 9.625 for her vault. And now let's see what Kristie can do.
Kristie's performing a new vault, a round off onto the board, flip-flop, layout. Oh, she took a lot of steps back. That is going to cost her. You can see Bella's talking with her, telling her what she did wrong, and now to prepare for her second vault.
What did she do wrong? What's Bella telling her?
Bella told her we're taking the replay, let's watch her, see what she did wrong. She's running, she's got a very good run. She does the round off, see the back handspring, layout, and she just brings it under just a little bit too much. She takes a few steps back.
So what will she have to do now to correct it? Or actually she has to change vaults, so.
Yeah, she has to change vaults, but she's going to have to stick this one to have a high average score.
Interesting graphic. At the USA Olympic Festival, she finished first.
Scores now being posted for Ms. Phillips first.
This is a relatively new vault in women's gymnastics, doing the round off and the blind back handspring onto the horse.
Kristie is a 9.35 for the first vault. It will be average with the vault she's performing now.
Flip-flop, full, and she did stick it. Cold. Beautiful vault by Kristie.
Kristie Phillips needed it. The pressure was on, and she responded.
Let's watch it again. Taking a powerful one. She doesn't hold back.
Rob Brown scores 9.2 on his
Does
floor
the round
exercise,
off.
and our next gymnast comes from an entire family of gymnastics
Back
teachers.
handspring,
22-year-old
full, and watch this landing. Cold. Beautiful.
Going back to the men's floor exercise competition, Rob Brown received 9.2 as we look at Guoling Sheng from China.
Guo is one of the most powerful gymnasts in this competition. And you'll see with his mount, it's a double layout. Took a little stumble forward, though. Boy, that's hard on the ankles.
I call that more than a little. He really...
Yeah, that's really hard on the ankles, too. Layout double twist for a second pass.
Zhang Yong is our leader at 9.75. This is Guoling Sheng, his teammate, trying to usurp him.
Did those beautiful flares. Now here's that balance skill where he presses up a handstand. A little differently this time. That's a straddle planche. Shows a lot of strength in the shoulders. A little off balance there. That's going to be a deduction because he didn't go all the way up to the handstand and hold the handstand. Caribbean pike front. There's his Y scale. And Guo gets ready for his dismount. Round up back handspring, double back flip. Oh, put his hands down. That's a major deduction.
Guoling Sheng from China.
An unfortunate performance for China as we move back over to women's vaulting.
Chen Cuiting.
And for China on the vault, it is Chen Cuiting, the young lady we spoke about in the opening of this show. She's the smallest gymnast out here.
She is so powerful. Let's watch this. Round off, flop. Layout, full. Took a little hop, but a beautiful vault. It's amazing how much poise this 15-year-old has. She's so tiny, but powerful. Let's watch it again. She's going to run. She's got a fast run also. These girls don't hold back. Round off. Flip-flop, and watch, straight body, legs together. She opens up for the landing, she takes a little hop.
And now Chen Cuiting is waiting for the green flag so that she may go for her second vault. And she's going to be very happy with the score she's got leading into it. 9.85 will be average for the vault she's about to execute now.
Let's see what she's going to do. A strong vaulter. Round off flip-flop. Tuck full. Whoa. Good vault.
Chen Cuiting completing the women's Chinese team on the vault. We'll be back with more competition after this.
We're now ready to continue.
I say the final competitor on the men's floor exercise competition will be Brian Ginsberg. 19 years of age. His hometown is Mobile, Alabama, but he's living in Southern California right now.
Brian Mouse, the double layout also, but he put his hands down. There's some mistakes in these floor finals. His second pass is very, very interesting. It's a front flip, punch front, walk out. Round up big handspring full, punch one quarter, and look at that, it goes right up to his straddle plunge. Very dynamic.
The score he has to beat is 9.75 by China's Zhang Yong.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, though, because he put his hands down on that mount. Brian's a very exciting gymnast on floor. He's very explosive. Real fast twitch muscles. Brian gets ready for his dismount. That's a left back handspring, double back flip. Good landing. That mistake's going to cost him, though.
So Brian Ginsberg looking for a 9.75 to overtake Zhang Yong.
In Houston, Texas, this is Phoebe
Let's look
Mills.
at Phoebe Mills right now. Chen Cuiting, the Chinese gymnast who competed before her, received a 9.675.
Phoebe also performs a good ball, a round-off flip-flop ball. Did a full twist with bent knees. Very good, and she did. She's been watching, and she knows to stick these landings. We're watching it again. Let's watch.
Northfield, Illinois.
Round off.
Park, Illinois.
Phoebe's got good form in this also. It's a blind move to the horse. Full twist, and she's concentrating on these landings because she's seen the former girls go up. And she's took a little hop forward, but she tried.
Phoebe Mills, 4 feet 6 inches tall, comes from a speed skating family. In fact, Phoebe's a former national speed skating champion herself and then made the switch to gymnastics.
Yes, she comes from a very athletic family.
Phoebe's from Northfield, Illinois, but like you, to continue her training, she moved to Houston, Texas to be with Bella Caroli.
Yes, and I just learned that recently her mother moved down with her, so that kind of helps the homesickness out. Just go round off flip-flop, layout full. Beautiful ball for Phoebe Mills.
Now this is going to be very close competition because Chen Cuiting received a 9.85 for her first vault, but ended up with a 9.675 average. Phoebe Mills received a 9.8 for her first vault. Let's see what her average turns out to be.
Let's watch this one again, though.
Phoebe scored 9.80 on her first vault.
Got a good run. Watch the round off the flip-flop in the straight body and watch the landing. Perfect.
We'll see what the second score is in just a moment. And then we're going to have the award
And
ceremony.
that concludes the men's floor exercise and the women's vaulting competition. We'll move along to men's pommel horse. We have a word from our sponsors. The medals have been awarded for both the men's floor exercise and the women's vaulting competition, so let's recap the results. China took the gold in the form of Zhang Yong with a 9.75. Brian Ginsberg took the silver, Mike Rice the bronze.
Zhang Yong had a great routine, but really the gold medal just went to the gymnast that made the fewest mistakes, and everybody else had problems.
On the women's side of the competition, remember, both vaults were averaged together, and Phoebe Mills, no surprise, came out with a 9.85 average. It was Chen Cuiting for China, very close in the score, though, and then it was Zhang Yong for China taking the bronze.
Phoebe did a fabulous job. I'm very impressed with her. The winner of these three events, of these three medals, were concentrating on landings, and they're the ones with the medals now.
As you can see, the men in the pommel horse competition are beginning their warm-ups. When we come back, we will have that at final as this McDonald's Gymnastics Classic between the USA and China continues. We are back, and our coverage continues now with the men's pommel horse competition. Before we get to that, let me remind you that coming up on ESPN is the America's Cup Challenge Down Under. Wednesday evenings on ESPN, you can watch all of the action from Fremantle, Australia. Our coverage is at 11 p.m. Eastern, that's 8 p.m. Pacific, and it'll be interesting to see who survives these Challenge and Defender series for the America's Cup Challenge, which is coming up in 1987, to see if we can bring the cup back to the USA. You are looking now at Brian Babcock, who is not thinking about the America's Cup, but is thinking about his pommel horse routine. Brian Babcock won a unique award, the Bart Connor Scholarship for Enduring Excellence. Since he has already completed his undergraduate studies, this allows him to continue training with as a graduate student.
Brian's considered an old man in the sport at the age of 26, and he plans to go on to 1988. He's one of our best gymnasts. He was our 1985 all-around champion, and he was third at the 1986 USA Championships.
Brian Babcock goes to Southern Illinois University. He's coached by Bill Meade. And in grad school, he is studying biomechanics. Appropriate.
That's right. Pommel horse is a very strong event for Brian. He does a lot of single work on one pommel. Here's a back more, all in one pommel. Oh, he had a break and he's off the horse. That's a major reduction. He can't win now. He has 30 seconds to get back up on the horse. It's such a disappointment to make a mistake in the finals because your score doesn't continue on for the all-around competition, and sometimes you just don't feel like getting back up. But it's a sign of a real tough gymnast to get up and finish a good routine. There's his flare work, breaking sequence. Now he gets ready for his dismount. Travels lengthwise across the horse. And goes right up to a handstand. Not a very good routine. I know Ryan's disappointed.
Brian Babcock, 5 feet 10 inches tall, 148 pounds.
Brian is a very, very difficult mount. And when you do a lot of skills and stay only in one pommel, it's difficult to maintain your balance. And I think he was off balance right from the beginning, and he was fighting the skill for the rest of it. And here he goes. His hand's a little bit off on one end of the pommel, but he just keeps banging the horse, and that just keeps slowing him down.
It looks so much worse in slow motion. Brian Babcock waiting dejectedly for the scores. The pommel horse, incidentally, is 4 feet off the ground, and it is 5 long. A gymnast must cover all 3 areas of the horse, both sides and the middle, and he must keep continuous motion throughout his routine. Score for Brian Babcock, a very disappointing 8.9.
22 years old. Last year he was in Los
If any of the other gymnasts just make it through their routines without mistakes, of course, that'll put them right ahead of Brian.
And our next competitor,
Okay, Guoling Sheng from China is our next competitor. 22 years old.
Guoling Shen tied for 3rd place in the all-around at the team competition. He's a very, very consistent gymnast and was one of their national champions. Here he does some beautiful flare work. The Chinese have become very, very good at this. Flares right up to the middle of the horse, and he breaks into his scissors. That really gets the crowd going. He does some single arm work backwards, and now he goes a longitudinal travel across the horse to a flare up to a handstand. Very, very nice routine. That should be a good score, and I'm sure that'll put him right in the lead.
Guoling Sheng looking very pleased with his performance, and well should be. We are going to take a timeout. When we come back, we will give you his score, plus still to come, 1984 Olympian Scotty Johnson. Don't go away. And back as you look at Scotty Johnson waiting for the green flag. Our Peter Vidmar spoke with him earlier. You recall that Scott Johnson is the only gold medal Olympian who is still involved in gymnastics competition in this meet. We asked him what's motivating him since the games.
My motivation continues to be very strong in the sport of gymnastics, just simply because I love the sport so much. A lot of people are saying that I'm too old now, being 25, and that I should have retired after the Olympic Games, but, you know, my motivation was still strong, and I feel young at heart, and I've never had a very serious physical injury, and I felt that I could improve and go further with my gymnastics competitive career, so I'm sticking with it.
Scott really stuck with it on that routine because he was a balance throughout the whole beginning of the performance. He did make some mistakes and had some form breaks. It won't be good enough for him to stay in first place, but it's always good for Scott to get experience on the pommel horse. That's been one of his weakest events, and I can tell that Scott has spent a lot of time in the gym on the pommel horse. Take a look at what happened here. Scott seemed to be a little bit off balance on that one pommel, and he just kind of gets a little bit out of control, and so he really has to start struggling with these elements. His arms are a little bit as he goes into this trick. And once you bang the horse, then you're really in trouble, and Scott just got very off balance there. He was able to maintain his balance, though, for the rest of the routine.
He sure fooled me. That routine looks very nice. As you can see, he received 9.50. That is not good enough to take the lead because the gymnast that we saw before we went to our commercial break was Guoling Sheng, and he received a 9.75. So Guoling Sheng is our leader at 9.75. Right now, Scott Johnson is in second place at 9.5, but the man who could change all of this is about to mount the pommel horse. This is Li Ge, the young man who we spoke of in the beginning of our telecast.
Li Ge is a rising and shining star in Chinese gymnastics. He's a beautiful pommel horse worker, as you can see, his very extended flares, working lengthwise backwards across the horse. That's difficult because he can't see where he's placing his hands. Now he does a longitudinal travel in front and then all the way back, completely off balance though, and he fell off. When you bang the horse, it just stops everything, and it's just so hard to keep that momentum going.
It's interesting, we take these flying motions for granted because all of the gymnasts at this caliber do it, but anybody at home that has fence nearby can just boost themselves up. Just try to cut one leg over, and it's a close sport.
It is a difficult event. It requires a continuous motion. You really have to rely on the momentum that you've established, and once you bang the horse or lose that momentum, it's so hard to continue with the routine.
Li Ge makes his first appearance in our ESPN telecast in these individual event finals. Unfortunately, it was not a good showing for Li.
Here he starts to travel backwards across the horse, and he just bangs the horse right there. And once you do that, it's so hard to get going again, especially during a difficult element like that. It looks like the champion on pommel horse, just like on floor exercise, is just going to be a man that didn't make mistakes. And Guoling Sheng should win the gold medal.
Well, that certainly won't get a 9.75 for Li Ge, the man we're looking at right now. He's managing a sheepish grin, but we've just been told his score is 9.25. So Li Ge will not get a gold medal in this apparatus. We will come back with a recap of the pommel horse results. Still to come, women uneven parallel bars, and then still rings.
We'll be ready to go with our awards in just a moment.
College basketball on ESPN is underway. 6 conferences involving the ACC, the Big East, the Big Ten, Pac-10, Sun Belt, plus many, many others. 135 games on ESPN, and every one of them live. ESPN, your source for basketball. But right now, let's talk about gymnastics, and we have the results for the men's pommel horse competition. No surprise that Guoling Sheng took the gold, 9.75, Scott Johnson the silver, and Zhang Yong the bronze.
Really, it just had to go with the man who made the fewest mistakes, and that's how it happens in the floor and on the pommel horse.
And that seems to be the philosophy of this meet. Every bit nervous as we now move over to still ring competition. This is Zhao Jianguo. And as evidence of the other apparatus, if he makes the fewest mistakes, he could be the man who takes the gold medal.
Leander, I really think that during this competition that many of them are kind of recuperating from the team competition, and so they're making some mistakes just due to fatigue.
We saw on the graphic that this is the man who won the gold medal in the Pan-Pacific Alliance games on this event.
Zhao's very, very powerful. He just did 3 crosses on the rings, an Olympic one way, an Olympic the other way, and then an iron cross, and he pulled out of it. Very, very powerful. He has a beautiful body line, very good swings to a handstand, and now he'll set up for his dismount. Double layout. Very, very good routine. That should get a good score.
Zhao Jianguo, 22 years old.
9.65 for
Let's take a look at his dismount now. It's a double layout, a double backflip with his body straight. Let's go nice and late in the rings, good height, and a perfect landing.
On the women's uneven parallel bars now, we are looking at Julissa Gomez, just 13 years of age. Well, she just turned 14. I stand corrected. She will be a senior next year, makes the team.
Julissa swings nice bars. She just did a beautiful high Jaeger flip. Moving great. setting up for her dismount. If you watch, she shows extended body in all of her handstands. Double pike flyway. Great landing, great routine for Julissa Gomez.
And the voice you are listening to belongs to Mary Lou. And we just saw Bella congratulate Julissa. When he slaps around the back like that, doesn't it really hurt?
Yes, it does hurt. Your son's afraid to do good. You get that big bear slap from Bella.
And he's a big guy to be bear slapping little Deep down inside, I think you look forward to it.
Yes.
We have our still ring score now is 9.85 for Zhao Jianguo. That makes him our unofficial leader at this junction. We move along to Brian Berg.
One thing we have to realize with these gymnasts, even though they may not win an event, they really want to improve upon the score that they may have received during the team competition. Now, Brian scored a 9.65 on the rings, and I'm sure he's hoping to do a better job here.
Brian is 19 years of age, lives and trains in Southern California, stepped out of college at UCLA so that he could devote his time to strictly gymnastics.
And Brian's doing a very good routine. He shows a lot of strength. Did his cross, pull out. There's a back rise to a straddle flange. Shoot handstand. Very steady routine for Brian. Back up rise handstand. Look how still he is. And a double layout. Very good routine for Brian. Now we take a look at Brian in slow motion. This is back up rise to that straddle flange. Very, very difficult, let alone to swing into it. Sometimes gymnasts just press into that flange.
Moving back over to the women's uneven parallel bars, Julissa Gomez received a 9.65 as you look at Chen Cuiting of China.
She had some trouble in the all-around competition. She had a fall in this event, but she is very strong.
So straight.
Yes, she's so tiny that she doesn't even have to bend her body to go through the bars.
That high bar is 8 feet off the ground. The low bar is 5 feet off the ground.
She just had a major stop right there. Ooh, and a fall. She's been having some trouble on bars. She didn't take the time to chalk up. She just hooked up. She wants to get it over with. She's gonna finish with her dismount. She was warming up a double back with a full twist. And she throws it. Oh, a little forward.
Mary Lou, there has to be something that goes through your mind when you take a fall, because you have to figure out how to line yourself back up properly and do the correct setup move.
Yes, you're right. It's one of the hardest things to fall in the middle of a routine. Just watch where she falls. She just went a little over in her handstand, and the back went to arch.
And that just pulled her right over. And we are going to break away from the action here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Please stay with us as China USA continues. Our still rings competition now shows Fu Luming of China getting ready to begin his routine. I'm Leander Riley along with Peter Vidmar and Mary Lou Retton. And these are the individual event finals between China and the United States.
Fu Luming was the leader in the team competition on the rings. He's very powerful. There's a kick to a cross. He pulls out of it and goes right up to an inverted cross. One of the most difficult skills in men's gymnastics. So giant to a handstand. A little bit off, though. He's wobbling just a little bit. That should do deduction. It's a back up rise to a handstand. Lower to a plunge. There's been a new strength requirement in rings. You have to do at least 3 strength elements. On ring, press to a handstand. This is a long. Just dismount, double layout, and he took a step. That's a different. That's not enough to win, but it was a very good routine.
As you look at Chen Cuiting of China, there's her score, 9.15. That's about what you got in the all-around competition. I believe she received a 9.2.
Yes.
But falling, you're glad to get in the 9s. We look at Phoebe Mills now, the USA.
Phoebe Chain in the all-around competition. Let's see if she... A great combination. A giant with a full twist pirouette into a reverse hecht. Beautiful. She's handling this so well. She's going to set up for her should be a flyaway position. And she sticks it. great landing. What a day Phoebe Mills is having.
What a day, what a meet. Now Bella's being nice. He's not beating her too hard.
Nice pat on the face.
That was kind, Bella, as the rest of the gymnasts congratulate her.
Let's watch her just mount one more time.
9.75. And our next competitor up is Scott Johnson.
So let's go to the bar, legs together, straight. Great landing. She's happy about that one.
Phoebe Mills will be looking forward to a score in the high nines as we watch Scott Johnson prepare his mount on the still rings. Fu Luming, the competitor before him, tied Brian Ginsberg with a 9.75. Our leader is still Zhao Jianguo at 9.85.
Scott needs a 9.85 to tie and a 9.9 to win. He did get a 9.8 in the team competition. It's a very good event for him. There's a kip to a Maltese cross. Lower to an iron cross. Scott's always been very, very strong on rings. It's pressed to a handstand. It's nice and straight. Giant dislocate, shoot to a handstand. And an inlocate, back up rise to a handstand. Now Scott's getting ready for his dismount. This is a very well-balanced routine. And a pike half and F out. That was a very good routine. It might be enough.
Phoebe Mills scored 9.85.
Score for Phoebe Mills, 9.85. That makes her our leader on the women's uneven parallel bars while we wait for the score for Scott Johnson. And we still have one more competitor on the women's uneven parallel bars. And from China, it's Zhang Yong. Zhang Yong, 20 years of age. She was the 1985 Asian Junior Champion.
The Chinese swing bar so beautifully. All of their hands. Oh, she had a
Form break on her mount.
form break
Yeah.
on her mount. Wasn't ready for that one.
Called major knee bend of the left
Yes.
leg.
And another break.
Are her bars adjusted correctly, do you think? And she just hasn't gotten out of the blocks right.
Maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to get back up after you fall. It just all breaks all concentration. She's still got 2 release moves that she did in the all-around competition, but let's see if she throws them. Here's one, the first heck, done very nicely.
That's to her credit that she could recoup for that.
Yes, and the double flyaway, the little hop. She left out the Jaeger flip.
Scored 9.85.
So Scott Johnson, you heard the numbers over the PA system. 9.85 for Scott Johnson as he waves to the judges. Gives him, according to my math, a tie for first. As we go back to the women's uneven parallel bars, Zhang Yong, who just had trouble with her routine, virtually gave the gold medal to Phoebe Mills.
Yes, let's see what happens. She just doesn't get her balance right, bends her knees, and has a big form break there. But she continues, gains her composure, and she's going through routine. And it seems like first break really lost her concentration on that, and she just has a second fall.
Something just wasn't right from the beginning for this young lady. An unfortunate circumstance. At 20 years of age, she is a veteran of international competition, so she did regroup enough to give us an excellent hecht and a nice dismount, but just not good enough to get her any kind of score. So Phoebe Mills with her 9.85 is very safely out in front with the gold medal.
Yes.
And I believe the judges are probably going to have to confer on this one because there are so many breaks involved.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
We'll be back with the unfortunate score for Zhang Yong and the results of the women's uneven parallel bars and still rings in a moment. Our coverage of the McDonald's Gymnastics Classic continues. The men's still ring results show we have a tie for first place and a tie for third. And it's an international tie at that. Scott Johnson and Zhao Jianguo each received a 9.85 to get gold, while Brian Ginsberg and Fu Luming received 9.75 for the bronze.
Leander was the best competition of the day so far, and it wasn't good enough just to get by with no mistakes. The gymnasts had to perform exceptional routines, and both Zhao and Scott did great jobs.
On women's uneven parallel bars, they too had a tie. First place was sewn up all alone by Phoebe Mills. She received a 9.85, but Julissa Gomez and Zhang Yong received 9.65 for the silver.
The Chinese had several breaks on bars, but Americans came on top with tremendous routines from Julissa Gomez and again, Phoebe Mills.
So that recaps halfway point of our competition. Phoebe Mills has 2 gold medals to her credit. Scott Johnson, a gold and a silver. We'll be back men's vaulting and beam after this. Here is Chen Cuiting. She had a rough gold on the uneven parallel bars. Let's see at the tender age of 15 if she can regroup to give an outstanding balance beam routine. She's very dynamic on floor exercise. You saw that in the all-around, Mary Lou Retton. But this is a little different type of event.
Yes, you've got to hold back on beam. She's got a different style, a fast, petite style. It's very much in control, though. Flip-flop layout. That's a little different. She took off of the flip-flop with her feet together. There's a different view of it. Her 2-leap series, which is wired on beam now. Shoulder roll. A little bobble. She's kind of losing control. You can tell her shoulders are a little off. Another standing layout.
On a beam that's 4 inches wide and 4 feet off the ground.
She's preparing for a jump now. Making sure she's at the end of beam. And it's a round off, double back semi with a step back.
Chen Cuiting, our first competitor on the balance beam for China. There were some minor breaks in it, but basically it was a good routine.
Yeah, she had a little bobbles here and there, but basically it was. We're going to take a look at her dismount again. It's a high double back. You can see the takeoff. Her arms are up, her head is straight, and she opens up, balances a little back, so she had to take the step.
Vaulting, this is Zhang Yong.
The one-arm layout Sukahara. Very, very, very nice vault. The judges have allowed for one-arm vaults now. It's really one of the most difficult vaults to perform. Zhang's a very consistent gymnast. He was in a tie for second all-around in the team competition. And he also tied for first place on vaulting with Zhao Jianguo, who is not competing on vault today.
This year,
Peter, I know, and let me refresh our listeners, they receive knowledge. You know, they know that you have a gold medal in the team standings, a gold medal for the pommel horse, and a silver in the all-around. So that shows that you are very skilled in all 6 disciplines of men's gymnastics. For you personally, what's the most difficult event for you to compete in, and why?
Well, for me, the most difficult was this event. It was vaulting. I've always had problems with my ankles, and I'd injured myself back in 1980, and it was just tough to cope with. The second vault is a one-arm double side flip, which is kind of a neat vault. We don't see that very often. It's a very original vault. A pretty good score on it.
Young received a 9.55 for the first vault. Will be average to that second vault.
And here's the second vault again. It's a one-arm double side flip. You see, he just tucks his legs and straddles them. It's tough to land that way, though, and it must be hard on your knees sometimes, too.
We are now back to the women's balance beam competition. This is Phoebe Mills.
She started very nicely. And great tumbling move. Flip-flop, layout, layout.
Chen Cuiting, the gymnast before her, received a 9.75. That's the score Phoebe has to beat if she wants a gold medal here. She has to.
I think she can do it, too. She's on her way. She's just had a tremendous competition here.
And that really makes a difference, doesn't it, when you've already got 2 gold medals going with the balance beam?
Yes, sure does. It gives you that little boost of confidence you need. And this is kind of neat. There's a little handstand roll on the beam. Her leap series.
Which is a requirement.
Yes, it is.
They don't do that to kill time.
Punch front, stick perfectly. All Phoebe has is her double back dismount. She can do it.
Balance beam routine must be between 70 and 120 seconds long.
She's getting ready for it. She's preparing. Round off, double back. Few steps, what a good routine for Phoebe.
Except for the landing, it was flawless.
It really was. She was flawless in the balance beam routine. She took a few steps on the ending.
9.6 for an average of 9.575.
We're going to take a look again at the big toe pass that Phoebe does. Flip-flop, you can see how straight her hips are. Layout. Watch her arms on the second layout. They just pull up there. Layout. And she catches her composure there.
Phoebe Mills in need of a 9.75, and we'll be back with the vaulting competition and Scott Johnson. Welcome back to our coverage of the Donald's Gymnastics Classic, the United States against China. This is Scott Johnson waiting to execute his second vault. The score that he wants to beat is now 9.575, which was awarded to Zhang Yong.
Scott did a good first vault. It's a layout Tsukahara, but it's not one of the most difficult vaults performed today. And so it will be tough for him to get a real top score.
The applause that you are hearing is for some balance beam results. Phoebe Mills just received a 9.75, and that puts her in a tie with Chen Cuiting over on balance beam as we look at Scott Johnson. Scott already won 1 gold medal. That was on the rings. He won a silver for the pommels.
And Scott could have won that all around, as we said before, but he made a mistake on his last event, the horizontal bar, in the team competition.
Scores 9.75.
Doing a second vault sometimes is tough in men's gymnastics because we rarely do 2 vaults. We only do 1 vault in team competition. We only get 1 shot, unlike the women who have a chance to do 2 vaults where you take the best of the 2. And so this is only in the finals that we average 2 vaults, and they must be of a different family.
I asked Mary Lou Retton this because the women do the same thing. Do you prefer to have 1 vault and that's it, or do you like averaging 2 together?
Well, I'll be honest, with my vaulting ability, it was always better for me just to do 1 vault, but I think it shows that the best vaulters, when they have 2 vaults, 2 different families, I think it makes the more interesting, and it's better for gymnastics.
Taking a long time with this score for Scott Johnson's first vault. We're having a judge conference. Scott's trying to be good-natured about it. In a time like this, it has to be tough then when you're waiting for that second vault and there's a judges conference between the 2 of them.
Especially when you're really ready to go. I think because this is a finals event and Scott had a good team competition, he's kind of relaxed. And I don't think he feels like he has a lot to prove. He just wants to do a good job. So he's not as nervous as he would be if he was throwing, let's say, a brand new vault, or if he really, really needed to win this.
Second vault for Scott
All right,
Johnson.
you saw the green flag. Scott Johnson ready to execute. Vault number 2.
Scott's first vault was a 9.45. As I said, it wasn't a real top vault in terms of difficulty. And here's a layout Tsukahara with a full twist, which is much more difficult, and Scott should get a much better score on that. Let's take a look at that in low motion. Real good height and distance from the horse.
Balance beam and our competitor from China.
It's a round off onto the horse,
Wrong.
and then a layout with a full twist off. A little low on the landing, but it was a very good vault.
Wang Xiaorong is on the balance beam now for the women. As I said, there is a tie for first place, 9.75 between Phoebe Mills and Chen Cuiting.
Wong has got a very interesting tumbling pass that's coming up right now. It's like she's tumbling right on the floor. It's a round off, flip-flop, layout. Little bobble, but she holds on to it. I think the Chinese move so nicely on balance beam. They have good flexibility, good arm movements, very smooth. Showing some flexibility there. She's just had the 1 break so far. She's doing great otherwise.
Now the question will be, will that break be more of a discount than Phoebe Mills taking a little step on her landing?
We'll see what the judges have to do. There's another one. She's setting up for her dismount. Round off, double back, with one step back. Good routine.
Close.
Yes, it is.
Very close. Wang Xiaorong from China, the final competitor on this event for China. Kristie Phillips will be our next competitor on beam.
Here's the dismount again. Double back, it's a high one, but she just over-rotated it a little bit, took the step back.
Scott Johnson received a 9.5, and you are looking at Guoling Sheng, the final vaulter in the men's competition.
Rode as a handspring, a Cuervo. Very, very difficult. He landed on his rear in the team competition and only scored a 9.15, and I think the coaches thought that they were going to let him go up and kind of make up for that mistake that he made earlier. A lot of amplitude and a lot of power here. Good block. Does a half turn, then a pike back flip. It's called a Cuervo, named after a Cuban gymnast who performed it for the first time. But he takes a little step, which is about 1/10 of a point for deduction.
The men's vaulting horse is about 6 inches higher than the women's, plus it is lengthwise as opposed to widthwise that the women use. The runways are the same, though, both 80 feet long,
yeah,
3 feet wide.
Same runways. It'll be interesting to see what he does for a second vault. He scored a 9.65 on that one, which is the best score of the evening so far.
And speaking of 9.65, while we're waiting, the score on the balance beam for the young lady that you just saw, Wang Xiaorong, was 9.
That was a one-arm handspring pike turn with a half twist. That was a very difficult vault, but he performed it well. I think we're looking at the vaulting champion. Look at that. Only one arm touches the horse. It's difficult to get a block like that, but he has some great rotation.
Our final balance beam competitor is Kristie Phillips. The score to beat, 9.75. It's held by Chen Cuiting and Phoebe Mills.
Kristie has a very unusual balance beam routine. She's particularly flexible in her lower back. Watch this mount. Does a walkover, loses her balance a little bit on the width of the beam. Very difficult to do. She's coming up with a round off layout step out. Ooh, with the fall. She's not used to doing that. This is
You're right. She's usually very solid on the bounce. I haven't seen her do it yet.
No. She's usually very solid. This is one of her stronger events. Back tuck. She's handling it very well. She's going to finish the routine. Watch this move. A reverse planche. Look at that. And she even gets a smile out of it. And now she's into the Phillips.
Don't try that at home, folks. That looks dangerous.
Torture. Ooh, shoulder. She's just bobbling a little. Now side flip, stay on. Good.
You're coaching here, too.
Yeah. Can remember working out with them.
She has a black strap on her left wrist.
She just got over a stress fracture in her wrist, and it seems that she's just getting over it. Double pike back. Solid stick.
I think that's taking the edge off of her. She's not in top-notch form.
Yes, you can tell. Let's take a look at her mistake again with the round-off layout. She does the round-off. Her hips are a little off, and you can tell she falls right off to the left side of the balance beam. Her round-off should have been a little straighter. Now watch, we're going to show the reverse planche again. Look at that back. It almost touches her behind.
Oh, boy.
Amazing. And then she goes into the move.
Look at her stomach, how flat it is.
Yes.
You could set a table on there.
That second move that she did in the handstand, they're hoping to call the Phillips. So we'll see.
Kristie seems a bit dejected.
Yes.
She is upset.
See it, maybe some tears.
Kristie, cheer up. You've given us some great balance beam routines and some great performances. You can't be on all the time, and you're just coming off an injury, so
that's right.
Bite your lip, and you'll be back.
Yeah. She'll make it up for it on floor.
a way to support these people as they continue to work out in the sport and continue to represent our country so well.
And this is the downside of gymnastics. Yes, not everybody can win. Her score, 9.15. That's a score for Kristie Phillips. A disappointing day, a disappointing balance beam routine for this young lady from Houston, Texas. We'll be back. The men's parallel bars, the men's horizontal bar, and the women's floor exercise still have to be competed. Gymnastics meet has turned out to be a showcase for a couple of American gymnasts. For the United States, Scott Johnson has now picked up his third medal. He's won 1 gold, 1 silver. And let's take a look at the men's vaulting results. You see he has picked up the bronze. The gold going to China's Guoling Sheng. The silver going to China's Zhang Yong. And Scott Johnson with a 9.5 gets the bronze.
Guoling Sheng had some trouble in the team competition, but I think he went out to prove himself that he's one of the best vaulters going, and he scored a 9.6.
On the balance beam competition, this has turned out to be the Phoebe Mills show. Well, not just in that, but actually in all of them. She has a gold in vaulting. She has a gold in the uneven parallel bars. And now she has a gold from the balance beam. She tied Chen Cuiting, who also has 2 medals. Chen Cuiting has a silver from vaulting and a gold with a 9.75 on the beam.
The medal winners on the balance beams were the ones that stayed on the beam. A disappointing try from Kristie Phillips, but a super routine from China's Chen Cuiting, and another gold medal for Phoebe Mills.
And she's going to put Fort Knox out of business if she keeps that up. We will be back with the men's parallel bars, and of course the women still have floor exercise, and the men have high bar. Don't go away from Honolulu. Gymnastics Classic continues now, where the men move over to the parallel bars. And like the women's uneven parallel bars, there are 2 rails. They are wood or wood laminate. And in the men's situation, they are 16 to 20 inches apart. We are looking at China's Fu Luming as he chalks them up and gets just the right consistency before he competes. And they are 6 feet high, 11 feet long.
One of the things that really bothers the gymnasts is that these are very springy bars, which is good, but they're a wood laminate because they're fiberglass underneath. And so the grip isn't as good as it would be with natural wood. So they're really worried about their grip. They always water down the bars, maybe either with a rag full of water or water and sugar to make it sticky. And then they take the chalk on. They want to get just the right consistency, and every gymnast is different. So parallel bars usually takes the longest of all events to finish. Fu Luming's the old veteran on the Chinese team. He's 25 years old, the oldest competitor on the Chinese team here. And I've competed with him in other competitions in the past. A very good gymnast, a real natural. He just seems to have very natural gymnastics. Sometimes he doesn't even have to work that hard, as I understand, talking to the other coaches.
Not to dwell on the chalking and preparation point, but at the Olympics, you were not allowed to do that.
Well, we did anyways. Everybody did. The judges were fortunately very lenient because they realized that it was very important for the gymnast to get a good grip on the bars.
But normally you would have had to just jump up there no matter
Well, you do have some time to get the bars ready. Fu Luming starts off with a very strong mount. He does good peach baskets. The underbar swings to a handstand. Does a giant with a half turn. There's a giant to a handstand. This routine's a little bit shakier than the routine that he performed in the team competition. Oh, and that's a fall through the bars. Well, this is going to win it. Now he just wants to get off. It's such a bad feeling when you made a mistake in your routine.
China's Fu Luming seems to be affected by the gremlins that have virtually affected every gymnast in this meet.
Let's take a look at that mistake here. Seems like what he was doing was a peach basket catch immediately to a saddle cut, and his left hand just didn't get a good grip on the bar, and it fell right through. Now we'll take a look at his dismount. It's a double backflip, probably the most common dismount of all the... Oh, here's a look at his mistake again. And his hand fell right through the bar.
I've been seeing a lot of bobbles in this competition. Is it something that's, for lack of a better word, infectious? Is, when people's bobbling, then more people start bobbling, or is there a lot of pressure on these people?
Well, I think we also realize that we're getting close to the Olympics, but they're still a ways away. We've got about 2 years. These gymnasts really want to get the bugs out. They want to throw some really good, solid, difficult routines, and if they make some mistakes in competitions, well, that's okay, so long as they learn from those mistakes. This is a very important competition. Of course, they want to do well, but in the event finals, after the important team competition is over with, the gymnasts take a little chance here or there. Maybe they're also a little bit tired from the team competition.
Fu Ming received a 9.3.
From Cincinnati, Ohio, and then Colorado Springs,
You see his score, 9.3. That will probably not be good enough to win a medal. Scott Johnson for the United States at 25 years of age is our next competitor. Already in this meet, he has 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze.
Scott was the second best performer on the parallel bars in the team competition, and it's a very good event for him. Did a glide, reverse cut up to a handstand, a nice peach basket to a handstand. There's a giant with a half turn. He almost missed his hand on the bar, but really recovered nicely. There's a Stutz. Front uprise, and there's a beautiful pike straddle, 1 1/4 front. This really gets the crowd on when he stops in now, nice and solid like that. There's a press to a handstand, and Scott just gets ready now for his dismount.
You're right, he looks good.
And difficult double pike in second. Very good landing. Great routine for Scott.
He looks top-notch. Johnson from the USA. A fine performance.
Now here's Scott's front uprise. It's a pike straddle front 1 1/4 flip. Very difficult. A lot of force as he goes into the bars, as you can see when he catches it. But he really turns nicely into a little seat Stutz. A straddle cut and right into an L, and that really gets the crowd going.
Does it get the judges going?
It sure does. It's a difficult maneuver. He gets the points that he deserves on that. And a beautiful double pike dismount, and look at that, a perfect landing. That's a tough dismount on parallel bars.
Elmer's glue for Scott Johnson. He stuck that one beautifully as he talks to Olympic coach A.B. Grossfeld. We'll be back with more parallel bars competition, but now this.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Of the men's gymnastics competition continues. You are looking at Scott Johnson. His score, 9.85. He is our leader.
Scott did a great routine, and that might be enough to win it. We've got some good routines still to come from some of the Chinese and from Brian Babcock.
And speaking of the Chinese, the next competitor for China is preparing the bars while the judges wait to give him the green flag. You are looking at Zhao Jianguo.
Zhao scored a 9.85, the same score that Scott just got in the team competition, and he was the best performer in the team competition. He does a trick that's similar to Scott's, that pike straddle 1 1/4 flip. He just catches it in a different way. He's a very powerful gymnast, and he's very exciting to watch.
Very strong in his own country so far in this meet. In the individual event finals, he has yet to win a medal. But the last performer for China.
As we just saw, he's twice been their national parallel bar champion, so this is obviously a very good event for him.
Our next competitor represents China. He is 22 years old and is the 1985 national champion of China, Zhao Jianguo.
This is one of the events where the gymnasts really take their time to get ready. They're always worried about that grip on those bars, and the chalk and the water all has to set just right before they go. Here's a glide kip, reverse straddle cut, a nice front uprise. And here's that trick. Beautiful.
Whoa.
Cut it right into a glide kick. A little different than what Scott did. Oh, little bobble there. That's going to cost him. The Chinese always have very beautiful body lines. Oh, there's a Strelly with a half turn. Straddle cut up to an L. This is a very original routine. The judges like that. It's so difficult to get originality points in gymnastics. He's done a very good job.
It may not make a difference, but part of his grip flew off while he did that maneuver.
I noticed that. And here's a double back dismount. I think he thought he could stick it there, but he had to take that step.
It's like trying to fight a cough. You try to hold it back, but it's going to come
And it
out.
just makes it worse when you do take that step.
Uh-huh.
Now we'll take a look at this front uprise. It's a pike straddle front 1 1/4 flip. Really gets a lot of pressure. And look at how he grabs those bars. There's a lot of pressure down there, but he really handles it well. Look at the power in his arms as we take a look at this dismount. A lot of pressure pushing out. That's a double back flip, and look at the bars wobble. There's a lot of force there.
Has to be. That's all he has to push off from. It's not like he has his legs to somersault around. It
That's
has to
right.
come from the biceps, the forearms, and the wrist. 9.75 is some of the... It is the score, 9.75, and that right now is good enough for second place behind Scott Johnson, who has a 9.85. And of course, USA's Brian Babcock, who's our next competitor, would like to get a 9-9 or better so he could take the gold.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to do, but Brian's an excellent parallel bar performer, and I think he can put together a great routine. There's his peach basket straddle cut right to an L. Brian has a very nice straight body line on parallel bars. There's a Healy twirl. Another Healy twirl. Oh, and he caught his leg on the bar. Well, that's going to cost him that. You can't win when you make a mistake in the finals. There's a Stutz and a Diamidov. That's a reverse of the Healy twirl. Another Diamidov. A step. It's so hard to keep your composure when you've made a mistake, and you just know you can't win. But the sign of a tough gymnast is one that finishes nice and strong. And Brian here will bobble on that dismount. This is a very good parallel bars competition, though.
Talking to Fred Roethlisberger from the University of Minnesota.
Let's see what happens here on this routine. Brian's nice and even until his leg just hits right in between the bars. There's just nothing he can do about it. When you're training that skill, you tend to lean over to one bar and just kind of sit on it as you're warming up. And I think it's just a habit that he kind of formed there, and he just hit the bar. Here's his dismount. See that pressure again for that double back. And he had a little trouble in his landing, too.
Score for Brian Babcock, 9 points.
Brian Babcock disappointed with his performance. It hasn't really been a great meet for Brian. He has yet to win a medal. He has received a 9.10. He's way out of the medal standings. So there is only one man remaining who might be able to upset Scott Johnson from a gold medal on the parallel bars. You are looking at him now, Lee Ge.
You've seen the flares on the pommel horse and on the floor. Now here they are on the parallel bars. I think it's a great parallel bar man. He made a mistake in the team competition, but he has a chance to do a great job here. Giant uprise. Giant with a half turn. A giant to a handstand. Now he had trouble with his back toss. Let's see how he does. Good job. Another back toss. There's a Stutz. And the glide kip. Reverse straddle cut. He goes right up to a handstand. This is a very, very clean routine. Not quite as exciting, though, as Scott's. Here's a double back dismount. It was a good routine, but I don't think that's enough to win.
Lee Ge. The Stutz didn't look like it quite up to a handstand. So I think that might have hurt him.
Yep, that's okay, so long as he doesn't, so long as he does another trick to a handstand.
All right, the score for Lee Ge is 9.65, so Scott Johnson gets the gold. We'll be back with high bar and floor exercise in a moment. Has come to life because two of their favorite apparatuses are up. The high bar is going to feature Brian Babcock. We spoke with him earlier about what his routine consists of. He shared that with Peter Vidmar.
Next up for the USA.
My high bar routine consists of releasing movements. I'm going to try to do 3. One reverse heck, which it kind of flies over the bar. And then I'll release again into another movement called a ginger. And then just before my dismount, I'll be doing another reverse heck. So I have 3 releases, which I'm trying to keep up, I guess, kind of with the big boys.
Well, Brian already is one of the big boys. And here's his first release. There's the reverse heck. Oh, and he's off the bar. Oh, he's disappointed. This is the last event of the day. This is the most exciting event in men's gymnastics, and he really wanted that. You can see he's more disappointed for this than any other routine of the whole competition.
Crowd trying to motivate him to get back up there with vigor.
Well, let's see how he finishes. He won't be able to do one of those releases because he was planning on doing that flyaway half turn right out of that reverse heck. Yeah, we'll just have to see how he handles this routine now.
That's right. He has to compose now as he goes. He has to have plan B as he steps back up.
Here's Stalder. This is a giant the other way with his hands in the opposite grip. This is a very confusing trick. Brian's one of the few gymnasts that does that. Here's his inverted giant. Now he's going to set up for his dismount. Let's see if he does that trick first, though. He said he wanted to do a Tkachev before he did his dismount. And it looks like he's just going to leave it out. Yep, I guess the mistake was just too much, and he was really disappointed.
Brian Babcock.
Brian Babcock disappointed with his high bar routine. We're going to go over to floor exercise now, and Phoebe Mills, who next year moves from juniors to seniors. She spoke to Mary Lou Retton about that earlier.
I think that's going to be really great for me to go on to the senior team, because that's the real competition, and that's the team that I'm going to compete with in the Olympics. So I think it's going to be really good for me to see how my competition is up there. What are your goals for USA Championship? This is Phoebe's first time to perform this new routine. Starting out with her mount, which is a round-off flip-flop, full-in somersault. Let's see if she gets it. Oh, too bad. She went out of bounds, but still was a very high full-in.
Three gold medals already to her credit.
She looks like she's enjoying this. Geza Posar is the choreographer for Bella Caroli, does all of the routines. She's getting to the corner, preparing for her second pass. Let's see, good fast run off flip-flop, double pike somersault. Little step forward, but she's pulled it out. That smile is just there. She's happy today. The crowd has started clapping in now.
Actually, Phoebe Mills could have had a perfect 6 gold medal meet, because she has the 3 individual golds, she has the all-around gold, she has the team gold, and if she could have gotten the gold here on floor, which still might happen, I doubt it with that major fall. But 5 out of 6 isn't bad.
And a nice, clean, double full to end with. What a meet Phoebe Mills has had today.
And she's leading the junior national team with a fine mark.
Let's see what happens as she runs out of bounds on the first pass. Just a round off the flop. It's a very good high full-in back somersault. She just over-rotates it, and she steps out of bounds. She takes a few steps. That's really going to cost her.
So Phoebe Mills will wind up this competition with at least 5 gold medals. As we move back to the men's high bar event, waiting Phoebe Mills' score, this is Gualing Chung.
Guo does beautiful one-arm sequences, as you just saw there. He's one of the most exciting horizontal performers that I've ever seen. Look at this. One-arm reverse hack, giant. And here's a one-arm reverse hack with his legs together. Look how high he goes above the bar. This is a great routine. He scored a 9.85 in the team competition. Here's an interesting dismount. Stuck it. This is going to be a great score.
Brian Babcock received a 9.0. You'll recall he fell off during his performance. This is Gualing Chung.
Let's take a look at this dismount from inverted giants. He does front with a half turn into a backflip. Very unique dismount. And it's a perfect landing. He's going to get a great score on that.
Next up for China.
We're going to move back to the women's floor exercise event. The score for Phoebe Mills, 9.35, as we look at Zhang Yong.
She's one of the more powerful Chinese gymnasts.
So far in today's competition, she has received a bronze medal in the vaulting and a silver medal if she tied on uneven parallel bars.
And her mount of full-in somersault stick. She's happy too.
With a 3-second smile afterwards.
Yes. Getting to the corner for her second tumbling pass. Get a breath there. Round off, whip back, flip-flop, double full. Good landing on it. The women now have to have a leap series that goes like a half moon around the floor exercise mat. That is a required move now. Let's see what her last tumbling pass is going to be. Should be a double full. She's resting. And it is a double full. Great landing again.
A lovely routine by Zhang Yong. The floor exercise area is 40 by 40. A routine must last between 70 and 120 seconds. The crowd is roaring because I just announced the high bar score for Gualin Song. It was near perfect, 9.95. He is our leader. Next up on the horizontal bar will be Charles Lakes.
If anybody can get a 9.95 on the high bar, I guess it's Charles Lakes. He's got a great routine. Really flies high above the bar on his release moves, and he has a triple back flip for a dismount.
And like Brian Ginsberg, he is pulled out of school and is training full-time.
That's right. They're really making a big sacrifice, but you know how important the Olympic Games are for these guys. Here's a Stalder. Here comes his first release move. There's a reverse hex. Hip. And now he gets ready for a Jaeger salto. Look how high above the bar he goes. Now he's got to set up for his dismount, but it's not over yet because Charles does a triple back flip off the horizontal bar. Let's see if he can make it. There it is. 1, 2, 3. That's a great routine. But that step's going to prevent him from getting first place because he needs to have a perfect land just to be able to get a 9.95.
How much of that step is the mat sliding out, though?
Well, he was a little bit over-rotated. Let's take a look at this reverse hex. Really goes way up and over the bar. Charles is a really exciting gymnast. Really gets the crowd going. Here's a triple back. He's going to do the 3 flips, but he overrotates just a little bit, and he takes that step. The mat really didn't have much to do with that. But because he took a step, that's a deduction, so he can't get a 10. And he needed a 10 to win.
You are now looking at Kristie Phillips. The score for Zhang Yong is 9.75, so she is our leader. That's the score Kristie Phillips has to beat.
This is one of Kristie's better events. Her personality really shines through on this. Starts with the double pike, a little low. She pulls it out. Just watch her face expression. She really communicates well with crowd. And I'm sure Bella Caroli, her coach, picked this music just so the crowd would clap in with it. The neat pose. As we said earlier, Kristie's got off of a wrist injury. That's probably why she did not throw a flin for her mount tumbling pass. She just stuck with the double pike somersault to be safe. To the corner for her second pass. Should be another double back somersault. Let's see. Yes, and she's happy about that one. And pound on the floor. I saw that and I said, I used to do that. For her last pass. A high, clean, double full somersault.
You sometimes feel like the big sister who went off to college and they're robbing your closet?
Sometimes I do. Let's take another look at Kristie's double back somersault. Good takeoff. Good pull around. Perfect landing. And look at that smile. And we're going to look at her dismount now. The double full, very clean. Watch the form in for body. Legs perfectly together. Step back landing. And again, she's happy.
I think Kristie Phillips needed that routine. It has not been a good meet for her, and she needed to finish with something special. That was special.
Yes.
Now let's go back to the men's horizontal bar. This is Li Ge. Charles Lakes received a 9.85, so right now he is in second place with Gualin Sheng's 9.95 holding down first.
That means that Li Ge has to get a 10.0 to win the gold medal. And I've seen him throw some incredible skills on the horizontal bar. Look, he's got beautiful straight body line. There's a one-arm giant on one arm and then on the other. And here's his reverse hex, high and up and over the bar. There's a flyaway half turn. Look at that. Oh, that was a really tough catch. It looks like he hit either his chest or maybe even his chin on the bar. Now here's inverted giants. He's got to finish. He stayed on the bar, though. He didn't fall off. The setup for this dismount here. And it's a laid out double twisting, double layout. Very difficult dismount. I think that he was rattled a little bit after hitting the bar like that on that ganger.
Kristie Phillips scored 9.85.
I think you heard the public address announcer, Jean Claire, getting a 9.85 for Kristie Phillips on the floor exercise. And according to my math, that has her in first place at this point in time. Take another look at Li Ge on the horizontal.
See what happened with Li Ge. He lets go, gets a little bit too close to the bar, so he tries to catch it. Oh, both hands went over the bar. But he hung on, and that shows that he's a tough gymnast.
Women's floor exercise continues with Chen Cuiting. She needs to beat a 9.85 from Kristie Phillips.
What a phenomenal first pass. A pike full in somersault.
And she's a dynamo on floor.
Oh, she is. If you look at her, you say, no. And watch her tumble.
Watch her dance.
Yes. She dances very mature.
Well, she is 16.
Yeah. You're right. Watch the second pass. This is always a crowd pleaser. She goes round off, flip-flop, whip back, flip-flop, double back. A little forward, but great. Again, she just came back from the Asian Games as the all-around winner. And that was just a few months ago. Getting ready for her last pass. Should be a high double back somersault. Let's see. Yes! Great landing for Chen. All right.
A crowd-pleasing routine from Chen Cuiting.
And again, let's take another look at this crowd pleaser. She does round off flip-flop whip back, which is a back handspring with no hands. 2 more flip-flops into a high double back somersault.
Award ceremony for the previous 2 events in just a few
And we're going to take a look at her dismount. It's a round off flip-flop, double back summy. You can see her head, she's in perfect technical position, perfect landing, and a perfect routine.
Is it good enough to beat 9.85? That is what we're waiting to find out. 9.85, the score attained by Kristie Phillips right now in first place in this apparatus. Chen Cuiting has 1 gold medal for the balance beam, 1 silver medal for vaulting. And what she is waiting for now is her beams or floor exercise score. We will have that for you. But first, we're going to break away from the action here in Honolulu, Hawaii. The men's horizontal bar competition show Guoling Sheng winning the gold medal with a 9.95. For the silver medal, there was a tie between Charles Lakes and Fu Luming, each receiving a 9.85. Both will get the silver. In the women's competition, this meet has been outstanding for Chen Cuiting. Although she had trouble on the uneven parallel bars, the floor exercise proved to give her her 2nd gold medal. So she finishes the day with 2 gold and 1 silver. And Kristie Phillips finally got a medal, getting a silver with a 9.85. Right now, you're looking at Kristie Phillips signing autographs. But let's go now to Peter Vidmar, who's standing by with the men's man of the hour, Scott Johnson.